This is Harsh Rules, I'm Ben Harsh, and today let's learn to play Conflict of Heroes Guadalcanal. Conflict of Heroes Guadalcanal was released in 2016 by Academy Games, and designed by Uwe Eickart, Gunther Eickart, and Dean Haley. This game supports up to 4 players and takes about 1 hour to play. In this episode, we're going to discuss Conflict of Heroes Guadalcanal's play structure. When we look at our example scenario, Go Edge's Patrol, you can see how this firefight is organized and the key events in each round. Now, let's take a closer look at the mechanics and etiquette for traversing each of these rounds of gameplay. In each firefight, gameplay is organized into rounds of play. Go Edge's Patrol has 4 rounds. And each of these rounds is divided into individual turns for each player. Each unit represents about 3 minutes of time within the game. Within this time span, a unit is able to take 1 action. With this 1 action, a unit can either move into an adjacent hex or conduct an attack against an enemy unit. After each game round, there is a cleanup and prep sequence where players refresh their units, draw cards, deploy reinforcements, and roll for initiative to determine which side goes first during the next round of play. Next, we're going to take a look at all these activities in greater detail. During each round in Conflict of Heroes, turns alternate between players who take 1 action with their selected unit. During their turn, a player can select from 6 types of actions to execute with their unit. Certain choices require action points or command action points to execute. Throughout the firefight, this is recorded on the player's track sheet. Once the first player completes their action, the other player takes their turn and selects an action, and the process repeats itself. In this fashion, the game keeps a rapid pace between the 2 players who are continually engaged with managing their units. Let's walk through the actions a player can take with their units each turn. In our example, we have 2 Marine rifle units versus a Japanese infantry unit. The Marine rifle units are side by side, each covering 2 angles of attack from the Japanese forces. Using these battlefield conditions, let's say it's a new game round and the Americans have the initiative. In other words, they get to take their turn first. Once they take their turn, the Japanese player then takes their turn and back and forth, etc. The US player has 6 different actions they can use for their turn. Most of the time, a player will choose to activate a unit and execute a unit action. This is the most common option available to the player. The Marines have 2 fresh units to choose from. They choose to select the Marine on the left. Once they execute this 1 action for their turn, that Marine becomes the officially activated unit for the US player. We're going to use the word action and activation a lot in this section, and it can get confusing. Therefore, I'm going to use the phrase officially activated to indicate the unit marker that is queued as the primary unit in play for that side. When a player activates a unit, they place the action marker on green space 7 on the track sheet. This indicates that the officially activated unit has 7 action points to spend during this round. This unit can spend 3 action points to attack, or a minimum of 1 action point to move into the adjacent hex, plus any additional points required for heavy terrain. Once this action is completed, any remaining green action points can be used in the next turn. Okay, now here's the catch with the system. Once you activate a unit, you need to finish with that unit before you can activate another unit. You can finish using an activated unit in 2 ways. The first way to finish using a unit is to spend all their green action points. Once you use all of that unit's green action points, it becomes spent. When this happens, you flip the unit marker over to the side with the stripe. This will then allow you to activate a new fresh unit on your next turn. The second way to finish using the officially activated unit is to abandon it and use a unit action to activate a fresh unit. However, if a player selects a new unit, the current activated unit becomes spent and loses any remaining green action points. That's the basic mechanics for unit action. Once you activate a unit, you need to either burn through all their green action points until they're spent, or dump that unit, lose any remaining green action points, and activate a fresh unit. Now, let's talk about some of the more advanced actions that can be taken during a player turn. Remember, you can only have one officially activated unit at a time. However, there is a way to toggle away from the activated unit and take actions with other units without losing the activated unit's action points. So basically, there is a way to switch from your active marker to another marker and then back again. Let's look at that. Action number 2 is called Opportunity Action. When you execute an opportunity action during your turn, you can immediately use another unit to move or shoot. However, by executing an opportunity action, that unit will lose all their green action points in one turn. Their unit marker is immediately flipped over to its spent side after it moves or shoots. Then, in the next turn, you still have the option to use your officially activated unit. The obvious problem with taking an opportunity action is that you burn through all of that unit's green action points in one shot. But the benefit is that you can respond quickly to situations on the battlefield. For instance, let's say a second Japanese infantry unit enters the battle. The problem is that the US player's officially activated unit is the Marine squad on the left. The incoming Japanese infantry unit is out of that Marine's arc of fire. To hit the Japanese infantry unit with the officially activated Marine unit, the Marine unit would need to pivot to establish a line of sight with the Japanese unit in the first turn, and then actually fire at the Japanese unit in the next turn. If the Marines absolutely needed to fire upon that second incoming Japanese infantry unit, they could instead execute an opportunity action to use the Marine on the right, who is in position to take the shot immediately in one turn. This would preserve the remaining green action points with the Marine on the left. However, using an opportunity action with the Marine on the right would use up all of its green action points. In other words, opportunity actions are expensive maneuvers, but they allow you to act quickly to opportunities on the battlefield. Another option to toggle away from the officially activated unit is with a command action. With this action, players use command action points, or caps. Blue caps can be spent to take actions with any surviving marker, fresh, activated, or spent. Therefore, the US player can choose to execute a command action for their turn and spend blue caps to take an action with the Marine on the right. By taking this approach, the US player can act quickly and preserve the green action points of both units. In the end, it depends how critical it is to the player whether they use the green action points or the blue command action points, and which are better saved to use in the future. Now, let's talk about the remaining options that a player can take as actions during their turn. Next up is the stalling action. Occasionally, a player wants to save their action points and see what the other player is going to do next. This is called a stalling action. A stalling action only costs the player one action point from its officially activated unit. If you're in a fluid situation and you don't want to spend caps or burn up your action points, then you might want to consider stalling. Next, if a player has cards in their hand, they may choose to take a card action for their turn. The card action is exactly as it sounds. The player chooses to use their turn to play a card. We'll cover off on all the card types and how they benefit the player a little later in this tutorial. The final option for a player during their turn is to take a passing action. A passing action allows a player to pass to the other player to take their turn and does not cost action points. However, there is a risk involved with a passing action. If the next player decides to pass as well, then the game round is over. Typically, passing actions are used later in a game round when a player no longer has any units to activate and is out of command action points. When a player activates a unit, they place the action marker on green space 7 on the track sheet. This indicates that the officially activated unit has 7 action points to spend during this round. Once both players have taken a pass action, the current round ends and it's now time to clean up and prepare for the next game round. This cleanup and prep phase is conducted in 9 steps. First, flip all spent units back to their fresh side. Just scan the play area for any marker with a stripe and flip it over. Second, if there are smoke markers in play, it's time to adjust them. Smoke dissipates over time. Therefore, any smoke markers with the +1 side showing are removed, and smoke markers with their +2 showing are flipped over to their +1 side. Third, reset the US caps while accounting for any casualties. Every time a US unit is eliminated from the game board, they are placed on a blue command action point space on the track sheet. This means that the more losses the US side incurs, the less command action points they receive the next round. A quick example. In Firefight 1 Goedge's Patrol, let's say that the US player has suffered 2 Marine Rifle unit eliminations in the previous round. Whenever a Marine unit is eliminated, they are placed on the blue command action point track and reduce the maximum number of caps the US player receives the next round. Therefore, since this firefight grants the US player 8 caps, place the eliminated units on space 8 and space 7. As a result, the cap marker would then begin in the next round on space 6. And now you get an idea how casualties affect the command action point track for the US player. Fourth, now we're going to reset the Japanese caps. Japanese caps always reset to the max value as indicated by the firefight rules. However, the total scenario caps are then increased or decreased depending on Bushido points. Bushido was the warrior's code of honor adopted by Japanese soldiers during World War II, emulating their samurai forebears. Unlike the US player, whose caps suffer when casualties occur, the Japanese player, because of their self-sacrificing beliefs, are unaffected by losses. Instead, Japanese caps are influenced by honorable or dishonorable conduct in battle. Honorable and dishonorable actions are identified in the firefight. For example, these are the Bushido opportunities for the second firefight. Remember, firefight number 1 does not have Bushido points. It's essentially a basic training firefight. Under the Bushido points heading, there is a list of honorable and dishonorable actions that will increase or decrease the Bushido point marker on the yellow track. As you can see, a positive Bushido point is earned if a Japanese unit is eliminated by a US close combat or short-range attack. Reading between the lines, the Bushido rule here is encouraging the Japanese player to engage in banzai charges. Also, a loss is incurred if a US unit encroaches on a specific sector of the board. So let's look at how these actions impact the track sheet. At the beginning of the firefight, place the Bushido marker on space 0. Then move the marker to track the loss or gain of Bushido points as these events occur. If the total Bushido points fall below 0, flip the marker over to the negative side. The maximum honor or dishonor on the Bushido scale is capped at 9. Also, during the firefight, whenever the Bushido marker moves, also adjust the command marker on the blue track. Therefore, if the blue marker increases or decreases by 1, the command marker for caps also moves immediately. Fast forward all these actions to the end of the round, and we're back at the cleanup phase. At the end of the round, the Bushido results will impact the refresh of the command marker. For our Firefight 1 example, the command marker always starts at 5. However, you would then impact that starting cap number with the ending Bushido point score from the last round. A quick note, the Japanese player cannot start a round with less than 0 caps. Therefore, in our hodgepodge example here, if during Firefight 1 we had Bushido points and we earned 1 point, then the command marker would not start on 5 the next round, it would start on 6. Likewise, if the Bushido marker was at -1, we'd begin the round with 4 command points rather than 5. The Japanese player then continues where he left off on the Bushido track and tries to commit more honorable actions. One last note, certain firefights may also have positive Bushido bonuses. As you can see here from our example from Firefight 2, maintaining a positive Bushido score will award the Japanese player with a special capability card. As you can see, the game's Bushido system awards or penalizes players based on their ability to successfully roleplay the World War II Japanese mindset. In the 5th step, players draw cards according to the parameters in the firefight. Steps 6 and 7 only apply if you have off-board artillery available in your firefight. Typically, the firefight will instruct you which weapon cards are available to conduct these strikes. The weapon card will identify the type of weapon and that weapon's attack rating versus soft and armored targets. In Step 6, players plan their off-board artillery strike for the next round. To accomplish this, players take a slip of paper and secretly record the map coordinates of their target. In Step 7, the written orders from the previous round are read and resolved in the following manner. A die result of 3 through 6 is a hit. A roll of 1 through 3 misses the target and indicates that the shot has drifted. A roll of 1 means the shot has landed in the surrounding ring of hexes from the artillery marker. A roll of 2 means the second ring of hexes, and a roll of 3 indicates the third ring of hexes. Then a second die is rolled to determine the direction of the drift. The result of this die roll is then matched to the numbers on the artillery marker to indicate which direction. Artillery strikes are big, so when a shell detonates, it does not only affect the hex it landed in, but the 6 surrounding hexes as well. This burst pattern is identified on the weapon card. Die rolls are then made for each unit in a hex hit by the artillery strike. In Step 8, if reinforcements are available, they may be deployed to the game board. Remember to check the round summary section on the firefight sheet as well as the setup sections to see what and when reinforcements will be available. Finally, in Step 9, each player will roll 2 dice, the results of which can be modified by spending up to 2 caps. The player with the highest result wins the initiative and takes the first turn of the next round. Let's pause for a moment and talk about the various uses for command action points, or caps. Caps are essentially the Swiss Army knife of this game. First, caps can always be used in place of action points. Next, caps can modify dice rolls by 1 for each cap spent to a maximum of 2 caps. Die rolls that can be modified include initiative rolls and even attack rolls. However, if you want to modify your die rolls with caps, you need to declare so before you roll the dice. At this point in the tutorial, you should be able to play Firefight 1, Go Edge's Patrol. In the next episode, we will discuss advanced game concepts that will enable you to play more complex firefights. This includes the use of cards, vehicles, and group actions. So, practice up on what you've learned so far and get ready for more next time. Questions about this game, Requests for future Harsh Rules tutorials and constructive feedback are all greatly appreciated. Hit the like button and drop a line in the comments section. To be notified when future episodes of Harsh Rules become available, subscribe and click the bell icon. As always, I'm Ben Harsh for Harsh Rules. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode.